1960. A new decade dawns, but the shadows of the past still loom large. The world stands at a precipice, unaware of the events about to unfold that will shape the course of history. The air crackles with anticipation and underlying dread. The world was tense, two superpowers, locked in a silent but deadly struggle for global dominance. The threat of nuclear annihilation hung heavy in the air, a constant reminder of the stakes involved. Every action, every word, was carefully calculated, analyzed, and scrutinized. The United States and the Soviet Union, ideological adversaries, each vying for influence and control. The leaders of these nations, Eisenhower and Khrushchev, carried the weight of the world on their shoulders, knowing that a single misstep could trigger unimaginable consequences. Faced off in the Cold War. A war fought not on traditional battlefields, but in the shadows, through proxies, and in the hearts and minds of people around the globe. Berlin, a city divided, became a symbol of this ideological divide, a stark reminder of the chasm that separated East and West. This wasn't a shooting war, not yet, but a war of nerves, a constant game of brinkmanship where each side tested the other's resolve. Diplomatic efforts were made, summits were held, but the underlying tension remained, a persistent undercurrent threatening to erupt at any moment. But a battle of spies, secrets, and nuclear threats. The CIA and the KGB, locked in a clandestine battle, sought to gain any advantage, any piece of information that could tip the scales. Nuclear arsenals grew, each side amassing enough firepower to destroy the world several times over. President Eisenhower needed to know what the Soviets were planning, to understand their intentions, and to anticipate their next move. The fate of the free world, he believed, depended on it. He pored over intelligence reports, consulted with his advisors, and sought any means to pierce the veil of secrecy that shrouded the Soviet Union. But the Iron Curtain made information nearly impossible to get. A wall of secrecy guarded by watchful eyes and impenetrable borders separated East from West. Traditional methods of intelligence gathering were proving ineffective, and new approaches were desperately needed. Both sides believed the other wanted world domination. Each nation painted the other as an existential threat, fueling the arms race and intensifying the ideological struggle. Propaganda campaigns sought to sway public opinion both at home and abroad, further exacerbating the climate of fear and mistrust. One mistake could mean disaster. A miscalculation, a misunderstanding, a single act of aggression could trigger a chain reaction leading to nuclear war. The stakes were impossibly high, and the margin for error was vanishingly small. A summit in Paris was planned, raising hopes for peace, a glimmer of optimism in a world teetering on the brink. World leaders would gather to discuss arms control, the future of Berlin, and the possibility of peaceful coexistence. But even as preparations were underway, the seeds of destruction were being sown. But behind the scenes, the secret war raged on. The intelligence agencies continued their clandestine operations, each side seeking to undermine the other, even as their leaders prepared to meet at the negotiating table. Trust was in short supply, and suspicion ran deep. America's secret weapon? A technological marvel, a symbol of American ingenuity and daring. A project shrouded in secrecy, known only to a select few. A plane that could fly higher than any other, the U-2. A sleek, black aircraft designed to operate at the very edge of the atmosphere, far beyond the reach of conventional defenses. It was designed to soar above Soviet defenses, to penetrate their airspace undetected, and to gather vital intelligence without risking a direct military confrontation. A bold gamble, fraught with peril, gathering crucial intelligence, taking high-resolution photographs of Soviet military installations, missile sites, and industrial complexes, providing the United States with a critical window into the Soviet Union's capabilities and intentions. The fate of peace talks, and perhaps the world, hung in the balance. Dependent on the information gleaned from these daring reconnaissance missions, the stakes could not have been higher, rests on this risky mission. A mission that pushed the boundaries of human endurance and technological innovation, a mission that could either avert disaster or plunge the world into unimaginable darkness. Flying the U-2 was perilous, a lonely and unforgiving endeavor. The pilots faced extreme altitudes, bone-chilling temperatures, and the constant threat of mechanical failure or enemy interception, requiring a pilot with nerves of steel, unwavering focus, and the courage to face the unknown. These were the elite of the elite, hand-picked for their skill, their discipline, and their unwavering commitment to duty. The mission would test the limits of technology and human courage, a testament to the ingenuity of engineers and the bravery of pilots willing to risk everything for their country. The world watched, unaware of the high-stakes game being played out in the skies above. The news media reported on the upcoming summit, the hopes for peace, and the growing tensions between the superpowers, unaware that a single flight could change history, that a single event could shatter the fragile peace and plunge the world into a new and even more dangerous phase of the Cold War. The Cold War was about to reach a boiling point. The tension was palpable, the stakes were immense, and the world held its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. The next move would decide everything. Like a chess game between masters, each side carefully considered its options, anticipating the other's response, knowing that a single miscalculation could lead to checkmate. And it all began with a flight into the unknown. A flight that would test the limits of technology, courage, and diplomacy. A flight that would forever alter the course of the Cold War. The year is 1960. Tensions between the United States and the Soviet Union are reaching a fever pitch. The Cold War is in full swing, a silent battle fought with espionage, technology, and the ever-present threat of nuclear annihilation. Below, in the heart of Moscow, the Soviets celebrated May Day with a display of military might. But high above, unseen and unheard by the cheering crowds, a different kind of spectacle was unfolding. Above, Powers flew alone, a ghost in the sky, piloting a top-secret aircraft on a mission of unparalleled importance. He was a lone sentinel, venturing into the heart of enemy territory. The mission, codenamed Grand Slam, was shrouded in secrecy, known only to a select few at the highest levels of the American government. The stakes were higher than ever, with the fate of the free world potentially hanging in the balance. Intelligence was key, and the U-2 was the sharpest tool in the arsenal. Every second in the air was a gamble, a calculated risk with potentially catastrophic consequences. One wrong move, one mechanical failure, one lucky shot, and the mission could end in disaster, sparking an international crisis. The weight of the world rested on his shoulders. The world's fate hung in the balance, teetering on the edge of nuclear war. Accurate information about Soviet capabilities was paramount to preventing a devastating conflict. The U-2 flights were a desperate attempt to gain that knowledge, to see behind the Iron Curtain and understand the true nature of the threat. Powers pressed on, his focus unwavering, unaware of the imminent danger that lay ahead. He was a professional, trained to handle the immense pressure and the inherent risks of his mission. He trusted his skills, his equipment, and the intelligence that had brought him this far. The Cold War's most daring flight had begun, a perilous journey into the unknown. It was a mission fraught with danger, but one that was deemed essential for the security of the United States and its allies. The world held its breath as the U-2 soared into the sky.
On May 1st, a day that would forever be etched in my memory, I suited up, meticulously checking every strap and seal of my pressure suit. I climbed into the U-2, the cockpit feeling familiar yet alien, and took off towards Soviet airspace, a vast and forbidden land.
Powers' orders were clear and concise. Fly from a remote airbase in Pakistan, a strategic location chosen for its proximity to the Soviet border. Then, navigate across the vast expanse of the Soviet Union, a land shrouded in mystery and bristling with defenses. The route was carefully planned to maximize intelligence gathering while minimizing the risk of detection. The final destination was Norway, a friendly nation where Powers would land and the valuable intelligence he gathered would be processed and analyzed. The primary objective was photographing missile sites, the hidden locations where the Soviets were developing and deploying their nuclear arsenal. These images were crucial for assessing the threat and planning a defense. And airfields, the sprawling bases from which Soviet bombers could launch a devastating attack on the West. Identifying these airfields was essential for developing counter-strategies and maintaining a balance of power. If shot down, a very real possibility, the plane was supposed to self-destruct, a last-ditch effort to prevent the Soviets from obtaining sensitive technology. The goal was to leave no evidence, no trace of the mission, protecting American secrets at all costs. The self-destruct mechanism was a vital component of that strategy.
I knew the risks, understood them intimately. Every pilot who flew the U-2 did. They gave me a poison pin, ingeniously hidden in a silver dollar, a grim reminder of the potential consequences of capture. It was to be used in case I was captured, a final act of defiance against the enemy. It was a choice no one wanted to make, but one we were prepared to face.
The U-2, a sleek black glider, a marvel of engineering, was built to fly at the very edge of space, a realm previously untouched by manned aircraft. It could soar over 70,000 feet up, far beyond the reach of conventional fighter jets and most Soviet radar systems. Its advanced camera could spot secrets from 13 miles above, capturing incredibly detailed images of military installations and other strategic targets. This capability gave America a crucial advantage, providing invaluable intelligence during a time of intense global uncertainty. Francis Gary Powers, a skilled CIA pilot with nerves of steel and a proven track record, was carefully chosen for this incredibly dangerous and vital mission, a testament to his abilities and his unwavering dedication to his country. After the harrowing ordeal of ejecting from his stricken U-2 spy plane, Gary Powers found himself descending rapidly towards the Earth. His parachute billowed above him, a stark white contrast against the vast expanse of the Russian sky. He landed not far from Sverdlovsk, a key industrial city deep within the Soviet Union. As Powers hit the ground, he was immediately surrounded by a group of stunned Russian farmers. These were simple people, likely accustomed to the rhythms of rural life, and the sudden appearance of a downed American pilot must have been a bewildering sight. They paused in their work, their faces etched with curiosity and suspicion as they approached the unexpected visitor. He was quickly captured, alive. The farmers, unsure of what to do, likely contacted the local authorities, who swiftly arrived to take Powers into custody. His capture marked a significant turning point in the Cold War, a moment of intense international drama. The Soviets wasted no time in securing the wreckage of the U-2. Military personnel and engineers descended upon the crash site, meticulously collecting every piece of debris. The recovery operation was a top priority as the Soviets sought to analyze the advanced technology of the American spy plane and glean any intelligence it might offer. Among the recovered components was the U-2's sophisticated reconnaissance camera. This camera was the heart of the mission, designed to capture high-resolution images of Soviet military installations and strategic sites. Even more critically, the Soviets recovered the film. This film contained a treasure trove of photographic evidence, exposing the extent of American espionage activities over Soviet territory. The images provided undeniable proof of the U-2's mission and the depth of U.S. intelligence gathering efforts. With the pilot in custody and the evidence in hand, America's secret was out. The carefully constructed veil of denial and plausible deniability was shattered, leaving the U.S. government scrambling to respond to the unfolding crisis. Nikita Khrushchev, the Soviet premier, now held all the cards. He possessed both the physical evidence of the U-2's mission and the captured pilot, giving him significant leverage on the international stage. He waited, with a mixture of anticipation and calculation, to see how the U.S. would respond to this blatant exposure of their clandestine operations. The world braced for the fallout. The U-2 incident had injected a new level of tension into the already fraught atmosphere of the Cold War, threatening to derail ongoing diplomatic efforts and escalate the conflict between the superpowers. The Cold War had just gotten much colder. The incident served as a stark reminder of the deep mistrust and animosity that characterized the relationship between the United States and the Soviet Union, pushing the world closer to the brink of potential nuclear conflict. The Paris Summit, a crucial meeting between President Eisenhower and Premier Khrushchev, and the fragile hopes for a peaceful resolution to the Cold War, were now in serious jeopardy. The U-2 incident threatened to poison the atmosphere of the summit and derail any progress towards détente. The spy game, already a dangerous and shadowy realm, had turned deadly. The downing of the U-2 and the capture of Gary Powers underscored the high stakes involved in espionage and the potential for catastrophic consequences.
I fought desperately to escape the wreckage, struggling against the G-forces and the disorientation of the spinning aircraft. Every second felt like an eternity as I wrestled with the ejection mechanism. I finally managed to bail out as the plane crashed below, the roar of the engines and the screech of metal echoing in my ears. The sudden silence after the ejection was almost as jarring as the crash itself.
The U-2's demise was swift and violent. A Soviet surface-to-air missile exploded in close proximity to the aircraft, sending shrapnel tearing through its delicate frame. The force of the explosion tore off its wings and sent it spiraling down towards the Earth in a fiery, uncontrolled descent. The once majestic spy plane was now nothing more than a mangled heap of metal.
Launch the missiles. Do not let the intruder escape. Protect the motherland from these brazen acts of espionage.
Powers' flight had commenced smoothly, the U-2 soaring effortlessly through the upper reaches of the atmosphere. The aircraft, a marvel of engineering, was designed to operate at altitudes beyond the reach of conventional interceptors. His advanced camera system meticulously captured Soviet secrets from the stratosphere, gathering crucial intelligence on missile sites, military bases, and other strategic installations. The information he was collecting was vital to U.S. national security. But despite its high altitude and advanced technology, Soviet radar operators were able to detect the U-2 as it traversed their airspace. The intrusion triggered a swift and decisive response from the Soviet military. Soviet fighter jets were immediately scrambled, roaring into the sky in a desperate attempt to intercept the American spy plane. However, the U-2's altitude proved too great, rendering the fighters unable to reach their target. Frustrated by their inability to reach the U-2 with conventional aircraft, the Soviets resorted to their latest weapon, the newly developed S-75 Dvina surface-to-air missiles. These missiles represented a significant advancement in Soviet air defense technology, capable of reaching targets at unprecedented altitudes. The summit collapsed. Hopes for peace vanished. The Cold War grew even more dangerous. One flight had changed everything. The world would never be the same.
I demanded an apology. Eisenhower refused.
The U.S. was caught in a scandal, spying and lying just before the Paris summit. Eisenhower was forced to admit the truth. The U-2 was a spy plane. Trust between the superpowers shattered.
I exposed the American lie to the world.
Confident the Soviets had no proof, the U.S. stuck to the story. But Khrushchev revealed the truth. The Soviets had the plane, the pilot, and the photos.
We told the press it was a NASA weather plane, lost due to oxygen failure.
In Washington, officials panicked. They assumed the U-2 was destroyed and Powers was dead. Meanwhile, the U.S. held Soviet spy Rudolf Abel. Secret negotiations began for a spy swap. On February 10, 1962, the exchange took place on Berlin's Glienicke Bridge. Powers walked one way, Abel the other, no words exchanged. The U-2 crisis was over, but the lesson was clear. Secrets and mistrust nearly brought the world to disaster. The Cold War's dangers were real and ever-present. The Bridge of Spies became a symbol of uneasy peace. The world moved on, but the memory of that flight and its fallout endured. The Cold War's shadow would linger for decades.
Powers, you're sentenced to 10 years in prison.
I told the truth about my mission, but the verdict was guilty.
Francis Gary Powers faced trial in Moscow, a public humiliation for the U.S.